Hello, I'm Ben Thompson. This is the Iran War Today, our daily briefing bringing you up to date with all you need to know on the US war with Iran. So let's start with some of today's key developments. US ally Kuwait says several of its troops have been injured in Iranian drone attacks as conflict between Washington and Tehran continues to escalate over the Strait of Hormuz. Iran accuses the United States of hitting at least 5 of its bridges and other infrastructure, including a railway station and an airport. As the region's oil exporters search for alternative routes for shipping, concern shifts to the Middle East's other big choke point, the mouth of the Red Sea. With Tehran sending waves of drones and missiles across its borders into neighbouring countries, we assess the impact it's having on people's daily lives. Well, Kuwait's army says that Iranian drone strikes have injured several soldiers. Earlier, the authorities there said a power plant and water desalination stations had been damaged in Iranian attacks. Iran says it targeted US military assets in Kuwait and Bahrain, as well as in Jordan and Syria. Now, if confirmed, it would be the first known attack on Syria, which, under its president Ahmed al-Shara, has resisted being drawn into the conflict. Iran says the United States hit infrastructure targets overnight, including bridges, a railway station and an airport. Here's my colleague Mark Lowen with more of the details.
The US launched another series of attacks on Iran for the 6th night in a row. In the Strait of Hormuz, where global energy supplies are again choked off, US Marines boarded a tanker. A control tower at Beheshti port in the Iranian city of Chabahar has been struck again, and footage now appears to show it's completely collapsed. Iranian state media said at least 5 bridges had been hit in the south. Several people were reported killed in attacks on bridges in and around the port of Bandar Khamir. BBC Verify has located one of the bridges targeted as Kahuristan Bridge. We have video here. An airport was reportedly hit further east in Iranshahr. And Iranian state TV spoke of 2 explosions in the city of Bushehr, home to Iran's only civilian nuclear plant. Iran has hit back. Jordan said it shot down 3 Iranian missiles, reporting no casualties or damage. Kuwait saw missile and drone attacks, which Iran said targeted US military infrastructure there. But Kuwait says a power plant and water desalination station were damaged. Strikes were also reported in Bahrain and Qatar, where a child was injured by falling debris. Iran's Revolutionary Guards said they had targeted and destroyed 2 American radar sites in Oman. Meanwhile, in Iraq, 8 people were killed and several injured in the city of Suleimania. And Iran says it hit Syria for the first time, targeting an American base there, though a Syrian source has denied it. And so, once again, the US-Iran war is spilling over into a volatile region.
Mark Lowen there with the details. Well, Gonche Habibiyazad is a senior reporter at BBC Persian and explains more about the locations of the US strikes on Iran.
The strikes on Iran, according to Iranian outlets and local officials, have been not just on one bridge, but 6 bridges last night in the Hormozgan province in southern Iran. And also, so far, they have said 7 have been killed as a result of these attacks on the bridges. Iran's health ministry has said that since the attack started in the latest row between Iran and the US, 38 have been killed. So far, more than 400 injured. And also, it seems like the attacks were limited to Iran's southern provinces, but the night before last night, we saw that reportedly some strikes happened on Iran's central provinces as well. And it seems that attacks haven't reached the capital, Tehran, yet. But a senior commander said today that anywhere of Iran soil is important for us, and for the attacks that are happening in southern Iran, we will retaliate. As we have seen so far, they have said that they have attacked Iraq, Oman, Qatar, and Bahrain as well. They are saying that they are attacking US-related bases in these countries.
Well, with the ceasefire now in tatters, both sides are escalating their attacks. Here's our security correspondent Frank Gardner explaining why these particular locations are being targeted.
So much for the ceasefire. For the 6th consecutive night, the US has been hitting a range of targets across a broad swathe of locations in Iran. This phase of the conflict started a few days ago with the US hitting targets along Iran's Gulf coast, things like ports and radar bases, missile and drone stations, places like Bandar Abbas, Bandar Khamir, Qashqai Island, Bushehr, Chabahar further southeast towards Pakistan. But recently, it's expanded that target list to include bridges and airports, places like Khuristan Bridge. Now, that is controversial because, of course, if you're hitting sites that can be used by civilians, that could be considered by some to be a war crime, although the US defense is that these are dual use and used by the military as well. Iran has been hitting back initially at military targets like the US naval facility at Jufair in Bahrain and the Ali al-Salam airbase in Kuwait, but expanding that target list to include critical national infrastructure, things like desalination plants and power generation. And at the moment, there is no sign of either side stepping back from this steady beat of escalation.
Well, with multiple strikes over multiple days launched by Tehran on its neighbours, in particular the Gulf states, here's Nisreen Hatoum reporting on the impact it's having on people there dealing with the constant threat.
The mood across the Gulf appears to be one of concern rather than panic. While missile and drone attacks have brought the US-Iran confrontation closer to home, there is little evidence of widespread disruption to daily life. At the same time, authorities there continue to urge public to follow precautionary measures and to rely on official sources for information. But what stands out is the way Gulf governments are responding. Authorities have focused on air defense, emergency preparedness, the continuity of essential services, and diplomatic efforts to prevent further escalation. The effectiveness of these measures, however, has varied from one situation to another. But what people think there is hard to assess because public discussions of national security and regional conflicts are often approached with caution in these countries. However, conversations conducted off the record, of course, as well as exchanges with residents on the ground, suggest that there is genuine concern about security and the potential economic consequences should the situation escalate further. And as attacks increasingly affect their territory and infrastructure, most GCC countries continue to stress that they don't want to become parties to the conflict. Their priority actually appears to be balancing two major objectives: protecting national security and avoiding a wider regional war.
Well, with the blockading of the Strait of Hormuz, oil-producing countries have increased their reliance on the Red Sea route. And as Barbara Pletasher now explains, there is growing concern that this may become a new front line.
It's the Strait of Hormuz that's at the center of the renewed conflict between the U.S. and Iran. The battle is who will control it. And it's America's Arab allies who are absorbing the cost of Iran's retaliatory attacks because it's targeting U.S. facilities on their soil. But the consequences could take us further south to the Bab el-Mandeb Strait at the mouth of the Red Sea. This is another crucial sea route for the transport of oil and gas supplies from the region to the world. And it's become more important since the Iranians closed the Strait of Hormuz. About a quarter of the world's oil and gas supplies flow through these two waterways. Now, the Iranians are threatening to shut off other regional corridors for energy exports. They didn't say where, but experts believe that they are talking about the Bab el-Mandeb, and reports say that they have asked their Houthi allies in Yemen to stand ready to close the Red Sea route if the Americans attack Iran's power infrastructure. Now, the International Energy Agency is already warning about a global shortage if the Strait of Hormuz is not opened in the next few weeks. And if there is a threat to the Red Sea route, that will make things even worse.
Well, it is a week or more since we saw millions of Iranians lining the streets for the funeral of the Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. An outpouring of grief, but analysts explain it was also seen by Tehran's new hardline leaders as a show of support for their muscular positioning against Washington and their determination to never relinquish control of the Strait of Hormuz. So let's talk about some of that now with BBC Persian's Kazra Naji. Good to have you with us. And I mean, what's so interesting here, and we'll talk about the Strait of Hormuz maybe in a minute, about just how important that is for the bargaining on both sides. But it feels like this is a chicken and egg thing, maybe about who will blink first and who will back down first, because once again, that ceasefire is over and the tensions are escalating.
That's right. And looking at it from that point of view, in the last day or two, I get the impression that Iranians are not doing too well, in a sense that they're not deterring the US from expanding and reaching deep into Iran and attacking targets, whether military or civilian or infrastructure. That has been going on, and if anything, the US is stepping up gradually, while the Iranian side have been, attacking air bases of the US in the region and beyond, but those attacks haven't deterred the US from sort of stepping up their attacks. From that point of view, it's a new development, A. B, Iran is vulnerable, particularly on the electricity and energy front.
Yes.
Already, we are facing shortages of electricity in the south, where the temperature is about 50 degrees C. And in Tehran, from tomorrow, there's going to be a timetable of blackouts throughout the day and night. So already, from that point of view, Iran is being sort of hit. Also, don't forget, Iran is also vulnerable vis-a-vis petrol and fuel. The production of petrol internally is always some 10%, 15%, 20% short, and that is a vulnerability. And at the same time, you have a lot of infighting between factions in Iran who are hardline. They want to sort of go all the way out and fight it out. And those people are saying that, hold it, let's think about these things.
Given what you've said about the impact then on everyday life in Iran, whether that is things like fuel shortages or indeed energy to be able to power some sort of cooling or air conditioning, what pressure does that put on the authorities there? And is that pressure enough to change anything, do you think?
Well, you have to wait and see. Of course, this is a sort of a foreign element, foreign force attacking the country. So don't underestimate the nationalistic fervor and feelings that this kind of attack generates within Iran. Iran is very nationalistic, very proud of its history and so on and so forth. So I assume that helps sort of strengthen the regime vis-a-vis its people, in a sense that people are less likely to complain about shortages of electricity or fuel at this point in time. But at the same time, don't forget that there's a rising voice of those people who are saying this is madness.
Yeah.
Why are you doing this?
We will talk some more about this, I'm sure, but Kasra, for now, thank you. Kasra Naji there from BBC Persian, thank you. Good to have your insight. Now, whether you've been joining us on YouTube, TikTok, Sounds, Radio, TV, thank you for your time. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow with the Iran War Today.